Yes, the FA Cup quarter-final draws were held yesterday, and they did reveal some unpleasant results if you're a Manchester City fan or a Liverpool fan. For some, will be jubilating for getting lesser opponents, but it's not a given that when you get somebody lesser or that you deem to be less powerful compared to others, it's a given that you'll make it to the next stage. Anyways, welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Thank you so much to all our new subscribers that have recently joined the Football Tribe UG community. We do appreciate your continued love and support on the channel for the things that we do here. I hope you enjoy your stay. Anyways, yesterday the FA Cup quarter-final draws were held. In the UK, of course, Chelsea did draw Port Vale, and Chelsea will be at home at Stamford Bridge, while Arsenal will be making the trip away to St. Mary's Stadium, where they will play Southampton. Then Man City were drawn against Liverpool, Man City being the home side, while West Ham, who managed to knock out Brentford 5-3 on post-match penalties, that proceeded a 2-2 draw in normal time, with Gerard Bowen scoring a brace in that one, as well as Igor Thiago. On the other side, for Keith Andrews' side, were drawn against Leeds United, with West Ham being the home side. So those are the 4 games that will be played for the quarterfinals. Remember, it's a single leg fixture, the home side having the advantage, and it has to they eliminated that idea of if you draw in the first leg, then you have a return leg. So basically, you have to play it out until the final winner. It does involve extra time if you let things get beyond the normal time. And then, of course, but the key takeaway from that was Manchester City's draw against Liverpool. A lot of Man City fans and perhaps football neutrals or well-wishers seem to think that the game has conspired against Man City in their running to the Premier League title, as well as other competitions that they are still involved in, because they too are chasing a quadruple, just pretty much as Arsenal themselves are chasing the quadruple. With both sides in the finals of the EFL Cup or the Carabao Cup, both sides still involved in the UEFA Champions League at the round of 16, where they have to play Real Madrid, that's for Man City, while Arsenal have by Leverkusen, and then they are still involved in the FA Cup, plus the run-in for the Premier League title. Now, the suggestion is the conspiracy that Manchester City are being handed tougher opponents to make it easier for the Arsenal. I do not want to believe in that school of thought, because a draw is a bit of a 50-50. You get who you get, and the equivalent of chances that Man City had to draw Liverpool are the same chances that Arsenal had to draw Chelsea or Liverpool or Man City on the same day. So really, I don't want to read into much into the emotions of the football fans who have otherwise thoughts about the draw. Nonetheless, it doesn't make it any less of a fact that if you're Man City, you would have rather have had and perhaps an easier draw than compared to the one you have, because facing Liverpool, even though Man City have already completed a Premier League double on them, beating them by 2-1 at Anfield, really they had won the reverse fixture by 3-0. It doesn't really give you much confidence or sort of put you at ease if you're Man City, given the kind of fixtures that will be coming your way. So, for example, we'll be looking at what Manchester City's responsibilities will be in the next couple of weeks. Of course, in this month of March, we do have the March international break later on in the month. After the weekend of the 21st and 22nd of March, we'll be going away for the international break, after which then upon return, which will be the 4th and 5th April weekend, the first weekend of April, we will have those quarterfinals played. So in terms of responsibility, or why there is a hullabaloo about Manchester City's fixtures, is because first of all, we already know that after Real Madrid going through the playoffs of the UEFA Champions League, in which they knocked out Benfica 3-1 on aggregate, they did draw Manchester City, a team they seem to have faced on numerous occasions in the last couple of seasons, because even last season it was Real Madrid that knocked out Manchester City, I think at the playoffs rounds. So this time around, they do face a Man City that will be on the March 11th. The Man City will be traveling away to Spain at the Santiago Bernabeu. Then they will return home on March the 14th weekend. It will be a Saturday and play away to West Ham United. So that's 2 consecutive away fixtures before returning to the Etihad Stadium on March the 17th to play Real Madrid, because it's a home and away fixture. After Real Madrid, the subsequent weekend, their responsibility will take them to Wembley, where they'll play Arsenal in the EFL Cup final there. So tough fixes, and then after that we'll go for the international break. And as soon as we return from the international break, that's when Man City will return to the Etihad Stadium to take on Liverpool for the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. Now, depending on how things will have gone there, these are the likely possibilities, because after playing Liverpool, Man City's game will be away to Chelsea in the Premier League, and subsequent to that will be the home fixture against Arsenal. But if Man City were able, let's say, in an ideal world, were able to knock out Real Madrid out of the UEFA Champions League, that means that they are likely to face either of Atlanta or Bayern Munich at the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League. As it is popular opinion that Bayern Munich will get over Atlanta, that would mean that Manchester City will have to play Bayern Munich at home in the first leg of the UEFA Champions League quarterfinals before making the trip to Stamford Bridge to play Chelsea, and then subsequently traveling to Germany to play Bayern Munich in the reverse fixture before returning home to the Etihad Stadium to play Arsenal in the Premier League. That will be on the April 19th. It will be a Sunday. So that's why you have this, like I said, a hula baloo about the difficulty of Manchester City's fixtures. But in any case, I say to this, when it comes to the Premier League responsibilities they do have, that's a preset, fixture or run of fixtures, for which they even have a game in hand against Crystal Palace that is yet to be rescheduled. So you really can't blame that on that. When it comes to the cup competitions, I think for as far as draws are concerned, it's a 50-50. You get who you get. There's no ways about that. I do seem to remember a period of time, I think for about 7 consecutive years when Arsenal were being knocked out, or about 6 or 7 consecutive years when Arsenal were being knocked out of the UEFA Champions League at the round of 16, Arsenal would either get drawn against Barcelona or Bayern Munich, and twice they got to be drawn against, I think there's a time they had Monaco, there's a time they had AC Milan, and I think, I don't know where else, but at least Arsenal fans at the time still had shared the similar sentiments that Man City do share, and Real Madrid to seem to suggest that, the odds are stacked against them to be drawn against tougher opponents very early on in the competition. Now, my feeling about that, or the mature person in me, says to be the best, you have to beat the best. So you do not have to moan about it. In any case, if I were tasked to choose a manager that can guide my team through a difficult run of fixtures, trust me, I'm choosing Pep Guardiola over Mikel Arteta, because we know whose CV weighs 10 times more than the other, So then when you look at the Manchester City squad, I, for one, whilst they are a team in transition, I do not want to over-exaggerate the point of transition. Why? Because they have more than 10 players that have been part of a Premier League title-winning side in Man City, and some of whom were available in 2023 when they were winning the UEFA Champions League title. Rodrigo Cascante scoring in the final as they beat up against Inter Milan by a goal to nil. So, really, first of all, the experience of Pep Guardiola, and like he said, every fixture is tough. There's no easy fixture, whether you're playing in the cup competition, whether it's in the Premier League, whether it's away in the Champions League, where you have more games this time around, and things like that. He says the key to unlock it all is to have a fully fit squad. For as long as you can avoid injuries, for as long as your team can stay clear of injuries, then you do have a fighting chance. It's not only unique to Manchester City. It's the same story that Arsenal fans are going through. They will be hoping that in this final run into the season, as they try to chase the quadruple, that their players can remain fit. As we speak, they came out of the Mansfield game, which they won by 2-1, quite convincing in my opinion, but with injuries to Ricardo Carafiori and Leandro Trossard. In addition to that, Martin Odegaard had been sidelined through injury, William Saliba and Ben White, in addition to Mikel Merino. So really, Martin Odegaard is back in training. Kai Havertz did return in the Mansfield game, as well as Ben White having returned to training. It does not give those Arsenal fans much confidence, because they are going to be looking over their shoulders, wondering who is the next player that is going to get injured, or how long can Martin Odegaard stay fit, or Kai Havertz, before they are announced injured again, because it looks like it's been a start and stop season for them particularly for Martin Odegaard throughout the entire campaign. And then Kai Havertz, we know he missed the first 5 months of the season through injury. And ever since he returned, he's not had the consistency of playing at least 4 or 5 consecutive games, without a mishap. So really, that's the thing about injuries. But it is true that going into the quarterfinal cup draws for the FA Cup, any of these sides would have been praying for a bit of a lesser opponent. It is a fact of reality that Southampton is a lighter opponent as compared to Liverpool. But let's not forget, Liverpool themselves struggled to beat up against Southampton, who they eventually beat by 2-1 at Anfield in the EFL Cup. You remember, Alexander Isak scoring his first goal in Liverpool colours, and then Hugo Ekitike also scoring on the same night and got his shirt off, and then he got a red card. So much so that Arne Slot was pissed. Now, what am I trying to drive at? That whether you have drawn Liverpool or Southampton, it's not a given that because you have a lesser opponent, you're guaranteed of making it to the next round. When you go to the Spanish La Liga, go and find out the team that knocked out Real Madrid from the Copa del Rey at the round of 16. It was Albacete who play in the Segunda Division, that is the second tier division of Spanish football. Before Albacete themselves were knocked out by Barcelona by 2-1 at the quarterfinals. Barcelona fans will tell you that that game was no walk in the park. I was speaking to a Barcelona fan last night who said it felt like Albacete were playing with 22 players. That's how much energy they brought into that game. So it's not a given that just because Arsenal were drawn away to Southampton, they have a lesser game. It could prove to be more difficult than you and I can imagine. In any case, you also have the example of them going away to Mansfield Town, and you saw how Mansfield made it difficult. The conditions of the pitch notwithstanding, look at Chelsea. They went away to Wrexham and they nearly got knocked out because they needed Wrexham to be reduced down to 10 men thanks to that red card to George Dobson for his dangerous foul on Alejandro Garnacho that they managed to come through, but they still needed extra time. So that tells you, and we know that Chelsea are miles apart, a world-class team than Wrexham are, but it was not easy. So what does that tell you? That it's not a given that when you draw a lesser opponent, you are guaranteed of going to the next level. It only increases your chances slightly. And this time around, Man City are playing at home. Arsenal have another away trip. Then the other example I can give you is that Southampton knocked out Fulham. Port Vale, a League One side, knocked out a Premier League side in Sunderland. So that's how difficult these cup competition games can be. So it's not a given. And like I said, Man City, with all their player squad, with all their, they've had their injuries. Joško Vardiol is out. Mateo Kovacic is out. Players like Jeremy Doku, Brad Erling Haaland are just returning from, some injuries here and there. But it's not to say that Man City are so worse off that they're struggling with injuries. No, it's a congested, busy part of the season because Manchester City are not going to play more games than Arsenal are going to play for as long as the two sides remain in the same competitions. What the variation is who they face as opponents. When you look over to the Arsenal side, in that period when Man City will be playing all those games, when you look over to Arsenal have to play Bayer Leverkusen away in Germany. After that, they will play Everton in the Premier League. Then they will play at home against Bayer Leverkusen. Then they will play Manchester City in the EFL Cup final at Wembley. Then they will go into the international break, upon which whose return they will play away to Southampton. After playing away to Southampton, they will play AFC Bournemouth and subsequently Manchester City. But in between there, if they manage to advance from the round of 16 in the UEFA Champions League, if they can't get past Bayer Leverkusen, they'll have to meet either of Bodo Glimt or Sporting Lisbon. None of those fixtures is easy. Arsenal will tell you for a fact that they did struggle against that Sporting Lisbon side and it knocked them out of the UEFA Europa League not too many years ago. It's not a given that they're going to get past Bayer Leverkusen. Whereas you and I can agree that Arsenal look the better team by their own performances, by their own squad depth and richness in quality, that they are better than Bayer Leverkusen. It's not a given that they are going to go past Bayer Leverkusen. We're talking about a side that played in the finals of the 2002 UEFA Champions League and lost to Real Madrid by 2-1. I think it was Raul Gonzalez and Zinedine Zidane that scored for Real Madrid in that one, while Lucio scored for Bayer Leverkusen. In that very season, they had met Arsenal in the group stages. That's the 2001-2002 group stages of the UEFA Champions League. We're talking about a side who, until recently, in 2024, played in the finals of the UEFA Europa League and lost to Atlanta by 3-0 under the charges of Xabi Alonso. So we're talking about a team with some level of pedigree in as far as European competitions are concerned. So Arsenal, the last time they played in a final of a European competition, you have to go back to 2019 when they lost 4-1 to Chelsea in Azerbaijan, Baku there. So really, for me, yes, is it a tough run of fixtures for Man City? Without a doubt. They really, really have some difficult opponents. But you cannot downplay Arsenal's opponents. In any case, go back over the years. What kind of opponents have Arsenal struggled against in the run into the Premier League title? In the 2022-2023 Premier League season, it was Southampton that forced Arsenal into a 3-3 draw at the Emirates Stadium when they had those 3 consecutive draws before conceding the Premier League title to Man City. When you go look at a team like Bournemouth, this is a team that beat up against Arsenal last season, home and away. When you look at a team like Everton, it's a team that Arsenal could not beat last season, home and away, because there were 2 draws in that fixture. When you look at Man City is a team that forced Arsenal into a 1-1 draw already this season. So, and you have to play him twice in a space of less than a month. It's not an easy fixture for Arsenal either. So really, let's not be petty about these things. Let's be honest to ourselves and objective also in the submissions that we make in regard to those particular things. So for me, I think it's going to be a tough run in for both managers, for both teams, in terms of putting strain on their squad depth, putting strain on some of those players. We've already seen signs of fatigue in them. How managers deal with load management is going to be critical to their success. But trust me, the running is not going to be easy for any side across all the 4 competitions that they are still involved in. We do not know whether Man City or even Arsenal will make it to the finals in Budapest for the UEFA Champions League. We do not know whether Arsenal or Man City will make it to the finals of the FA Cup. What do you mean? What if Liverpool knock out Man City and Southampton knock out Arsenal? The story will fizzle out there. It will be left to Chelsea and Leeds or West Ham, whoever can go through the semi-finals and things like that. So we can only wait and see. But what are your thoughts about those fixtures for Man City? Do you think Arsenal are having it fair? And to be honest, I've always made the argument that for you to win certain things or to come out triumphant in titles, you need some little bit of luck. And if Arsenal have gotten that in what you deem as to be softer draws, it's either, they've gotten that bit of luck, or they've also created their own luck. For example, when you look at the UEFA Champions League route, they topped that UEFA Champions League 36 with 8 wins out of 8. So really, if they do get what you feel is a lesser opponent, it's also because they worked for it. It's not because it's been handed to them on a silver platter, Also look at it that way, because we know that the advantages of finishing within the top 8, and the higher you finish on that UEFA Champions League table, chances are the more advantages you're going to have. Let's not forget, in that run, or the arm where Arsenal are, you have a Barcelona in there, you have an Atletico Madrid, you have a Tottenham, you have a Newcastle, So think about it that way. Anyways, your thoughts on that and more. Give me your feedback and we'll continue to engage down in the comment section. Otherwise, stay blessed and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye for now.